All right, Godlings. This is Life 101. Trying to explain a little bit to my son about this and how he wants to go about life, And this is for anybody that's just getting started in their life, just graduated too. Now, the world's very different. I graduated, 30 years ago? I went to college late in life, okay? Now, let's back up. Okay, so back when the boomers, okay, they went to work. They did great. They did great. They all went to work. They worked at like factories and other places, worked there for a number of years and retired. A lot of them were lucky that way. They had good jobs and they worked there a long time and retired and got pensions and all that, right? And so then Gen X comes along, right? And there wasn't many of us to begin with, and we're dropping like flies right now, right? So everybody talks about the torch being passed to Gen X. We ain't gonna get it, dudes. I'm telling you, Gen X ain't getting shit. It's gonna bypass us and go to the next generations, okay? Now, okay, I'm almost 50 years old. I did life a little bit differently, okay? So a lot of my companions or cohort, educational cohort there, generational cohort, when we all graduated, we all did different things, of course, but some very different than others. A lot of them, they got families and they went to work and they did that. Some of us went in the Army. I went in the Army. I decided I'm not going to be stuck with a family. I'm young. I had this loose idea in the back of my head before I graduated that I was going to take 10 years of my life and do whatever I wanted. And then if I wanted to settle down, I would. So in the meantime, I got a little lost in there, but that's okay. That's a different story. Anywho, so what I did things a little differently, kind of backwards, really, So I went in the Army straight out of high school, a couple years, and then I got out and I was lost. I didn't really know what to do. So I said, I'm just going to be by myself and do what I want to do. And I did that. And I studied. I studied spirituality, religion, worked on myself the best I could, at the time. And a lot of jobs I found boring. Like I learned them in 2 weeks and I'd be bored. I'd be just bored out of my gourd. I couldn't stand it. There were a couple jobs in there. Hey, this is pretty cool. I learned something different every day. Anywho, so that's what I did. So I'm jumping I wasn't very stable, right? I was just kind of wandering around. I wasn't very stable. And that's okay. I got a lot of good, neat education out of it. It wasn't very stable though, right? So I had what's called failure to launch. I had a couple things, and everybody says, you got to make better life choices. And, hey, that's true in some instances because there were some things about myself. I didn't make very good choices when I was young, I just didn't. And how would I? Because if someone else is making your decisions for you all the time and then you're supposed to do it on your own, what are you going to do, right? So anywho, that aside, so what happened was I did that for 10 years, jumped from job to job, moved around, got a feel for who I was and what I really wanted. I knew what I didn't want. Like people there talking about, oh, you should go to a factory and work there. I was like, no, I am not working my life away in a factory. And my basis for that was that my dad did that. And he's a great worker, brought home money. I never saw the guy. I did see him, but I didn't see him nearly as much as I wanted to, as much as I needed him. And I was still upset about how much the factory took of him. Because once the factory got done with it, there wasn't much of him left, seriously. So I said, no, I'm not doing that. But now I did try a few factory jobs, okay? And some of them lasted a little bit longer than others, but mostly they're boring. Not very good people to work with. They're low mentality. Seriously, I'm sorry, factory workers, but they're just low mentality. And it's so easy. Most factory work is so easy. A monkey could do it, So I like something that's challenging. I'm constantly moving, learning different things, right? But I tried a few factory jobs, and that's all right. But it's just too boring for me. So then I get after that, I had problems, substance abuse and stuff like that. So then I got sober. And then I got with a family, and then I started working, and then I went to a factory, and I went to college. Okay, so as I graduated, go to the Army, and then I go to work and jumping around, and after 10 years, then I straighten up, then I go into college, and then I couldn't really use my degree for much of anything. What I could use my degree for was the same thing I could have done without a degree. I could get part-time minimum wage at some places. Same thing I could have done without a degree, right? So these are things that people don't tell you. I wasn't told that I had to choose between college or a house. Okay. Well, things changed because it was like 2008. I'm just getting out of college. Then the housing bubble burst, right? Very different, right? Now, if I would have stayed at the factory, worked hard, put away money, I probably could have bought in the house too. But I wasn't big on buying a house. I just didn't want to uproot my kids and stuff. But the main reason why I didn't go to work at the factory because I'd just be working all the time and I miss my family. And that's not why I got a family, you know. So I decided to go to work at the animal shelter. Didn't get laid off the whole time I was there, and it was good. It kept me involved, and I learned a lot there. But anywho, so by the time I'm about 30, 40, and other people, you know, they graduate around me, some went to factories and they worked there, and so a couple of the factories, they folded, right? So then they're stuck, you know, after 10, 20 years, they're stuck, and some went back to college and learned something different. Got trades or whatever, you know. But there were some factories that, you know, I was trying to be told I should go work for a factory for years and years and years, and I don't think so. But so that's what some did, and then I found out that, you know, after years and years of being there, the company folded up, spent all their pension, they didn't have nothing. After 30 years. Now they had work experience, sure, but it was only for that one thing, you know. So and after 30 years, like, oh, well, now what do I do? So then there was a couple other people that had their children early, close out of high school, and a couple of them, they just went and got a job, and they stayed there for 20 some plus years, right? And they did very good in those. And it was interesting because a couple of those, they went to work, just stayed there, and I did my thing, and other people went to factories, and we all kind of ended up at the same spot. It's crazy, you know. It's interesting to see this younger generation now because I don't like this word woke, but that's what it is, I guess, because they're starting to see this. They're like, hey, man, if I'm working, you're going to pay me what I'm worth. And they talk about this quiet quitting crap, you know, where you go to work, you show up on time, you clock out when you're supposed to, you do your work that you're supposed to do and nothing else. That's called your job. That's called doing your job, okay? Quiet quitting is what I used to do, and you just don't show up or call for 3 days, right? No call, no show for 3 days. That's quiet quitting, right? That's quiet quitting. Now there's rage quitting, but we're going to go to that one right now, right? But it's neat to see this younger generation saying, that's not life. And they're understanding this. So it's really neat for me to see this because when I was doing all that, I wasn't very popular at all, man. It was like, you know, I was just a lounge or a slouch, you know, I guess, you know, or something like that. And maybe I was. But no, I was motivated. I'd work and stuff, but it's just I couldn't subjugate myself for money. Okay. I never really wanted a whole lot of money. I didn't want a big house. I didn't want a big car. I didn't want a bunch of fancy crap like everybody else wanted. Right. So, you know, so there's a price to pay for that. Right. You know, and that's okay. I like so I chose the minimalistic living. So I could be with my son. Because I want to see him. I don't want him to grow. I'm working away in a factory, and I'm just the guy that shows up on the weekends on occasion, maybe, and he has a relationship with my money. You know, I was like, man, they're only going to be, you know, with you for 18 years, and then the idea is that they grow up, go on and do their own thing. That's what they're supposed to do, right? I wasn't going to miss out on all that. I was not going to miss out on him growing up at all. I didn't care what the cost, you know. You know, the factory paid a lot of money, but it wasn't worth it. And there's no amount of money that can make me go back there, right? And it's just like, I want to do art. Now, art's not real. It's not easy to make money from art, okay? You know, it's a starving artist type of deal now. I tried to get into tattooing, and I did a little bit here and there. But, I couldn't really get a business started because of the way it's run, you know, because you got to go subjugate yourself, kiss someone's ass, pay them some money, and they might hire you. I've heard a lot of horror stories about that where you go in, you pay your due to them, right? They take all your equipment, kick you out, and they smear your name all over. So I was like, well, if they're going to do that, I'm just going to work out of home anyway, and they can smear my name all they want. So I did all right with that, but that wasn't my big focus because I had other things I wanted to do as well, right? So anywho, so there's a bunch of different ways you could do it. But things are different. It's like all the things that I did that I thought maybe I could have done differently, that I did wrong. Even if I'd done different, would it be any different now? Maybe not. Because the world changes. And it's changed so much more in 10 years than I've seen in 30, man. Let me tell you. So I'm like, well, you can go to college, learn a little something, take a break, and go back to work, or just go to college and get a job in that field, or you just go to work. I'd say get yourself situated first and then have a family. But if you can do all that at the same time, and some people are lucky. Some people have parents that are willing to buy them a house. Hey, man, if your parents can afford it and want to do that for you, give you a head start, good for you, man. But not all of us had that. Not all of us had that. Not all of us had that. And there was people that I knew they're getting in trouble left and right. Well, they had their parents to bail them out, right? I didn't have that, so I had to be careful of getting in trouble. I did get in some trouble, but I found out real quick no one's going to bail my ass out. So I just had to deal with it, And I didn't really grovel to my parents a whole lot for money. Now, there was a couple times when I needed it really, and I asked my dad, But anywho, so not all of us have the same opportunities, right? So, but it's really neat to see these newer generations. They're coming out, they're understanding how, because I've seen how this works. And this is bullshit. I've known this my whole life. So seeing these younger kids and they're all standing up together, coming together on this, that's awesome. You keep going, keep on keeping on, guys. I mean, seriously, because I always hope for a better world, right? I don't see why there's any reason why we have to work 8 hours a day for, or 50 hours a week, 60, it's bullcrap, right? I've always envisioned a perfect work week is a 4-day work week, 3 days off, 4 days, 10 hours, maybe 10, 12 hours a day, and you get 3 days off, and it doesn't have to be all in a row, right? I mean, you can switch it around a bit, I think that's acceptable. You can do just as much work in 4 days, and have people switch around. I don't see why it's a problem. But it's neat to see this younger generation kind of really get in the grasp of things like that and say, hey, we can change this. And I've always seen that. I've been alone. I've been a dreamer for a long, long time in this. And I've seen society and I say, this can change. I don't know if it ever will. I've tried to, but I've been alone, So I've always liked to see it change. And I think overall, life could be better. It doesn't work for the system, of course, but I think we can fashion a better life for ourselves. All we need to do is shift it. I don't know which way, left, right, just a little bit. That's all we have to do, just shift it this way or that way. We won't eliminate all the world's problems. That's not what I'm talking about. But we can eliminate a lot of bullshit, okay? We can eliminate a shit ton of bullshit by just shifting it one way or the other. And it looks like people are doing that like right now. And the system's kind of fighting back on that. That's the problem right now. I see the system's fighting back on that. They don't want that shit. But you guys keep on keeping on, right? And Gen X, sorry for your bad luck. We ain't getting shit.